I think everybody thought that you could just slap the Star Wars name on something and people would come in droves. And you know what? For Disney, it worked a little bit at first. Despite The Force Awakens, in my opinion, being kind of a dog shit movie, it made a lot of money. And then we saw The Last Jedi really turned a lot of fans off. We saw diminishing returns. We saw all this stuff. We've seen the trouble that the brand, the Star Wars IP, has faced over the last decade. And apparently other people have decided that that might be the reason their games are failing. We talked about Star Wars Outlaws, when it came out last year, and it was embarrassing. It was another failure for Ubisoft. And it's not like this is an isolated thing for Ubisoft. They've had multiple flops within the past couple of years to the point where they needed a bailout from Tencent. They're splitting the company to basically get good money and bad money separate so they don't have to go bankrupt, all this stuff. Embarrassing for Ubisoft. But Star Wars Outlaws absolutely was a failure for them. I think if you watched the trailer, you probably knew it was going to be. But Ubisoft says, hey, it's not the fact that the game was shit. It's not the fact that the story was shit. It's not the fact that we released it glitchy. It's actually because Disney Star Wars sucks right now, okay? That's the reason this thing failed. Ubisoft CEO thinks Star Wars Outlaws failed because the brand was less popular. And yes, they didn't meet their sales expectations. The game was a flop, been confirmed for a while now. But the CEO, Yves Guillemot, fielded questions about Star Wars Outlaws and how it hasn't turned around the results they expected. To explain the downfall of Star Wars Outlaws, Guillemot first criticized the brand before talking about the game's technical performance. For Star Wars Outlaws, we didn't reach our sales targets. The game suffered from a number of items. First, it suffered from the fact that it was released at a time when the brand that it belonged to, was in a bit of choppy waters. And the game had a few items that still need to be polished, and they were polished and debugged in the early weeks, but it did affect sales volumes. I love that the first thing is, hey, by the way, just want to say we had some problems with this game, but Disney Star Wars sucks, so you should give us a break for that. Everybody hates Disney Star Wars, okay? So let's just put that out there on the record. How funny.
It's the brand's fault. I mean, that's an easy out to say nobody likes Star Wars anymore, because a lot of people will agree with that it sucks. But the fact of the matter is, there has been, if you made a good Star Wars game, people would actually play it. There's a reason why Battlefront 2 was like peaking at all-time highs this year as well. Like, people went back to it because they wanted to play a Star Wars game that they enjoyed. The Fortnite Star Wars edition was loved by Star Wars fans, if you can believe that or not. And so here we are, where they made a crappy game but decided to pass the blame onto something else. Kind of funny. Maybe you shouldn't have given it to all those Star Wars influencers out there that are just going to say it's wonderful and have them play the game to no audiences. Maybe you should have gave it to somebody else. But keep doing what you're doing. It seems to be working out great for you.
Well, look, Jedi Fallen Order was a pretty big success, stuff like that. I do think that Disney Star Wars is in a shitty spot. I think they have done
terrible,
potentially irreparable damage to the name Star Wars at this point for the general audience. But if you put out a game that people perceive as good, as a story that they care about, stuff like that, you're going to get better returns. The problem is you had the worst of both worlds when it came to this. You have Disney Star Wars, which is a damaged brand, combined with a game that you decided to focus on all the wrong things for, and that came out buggy and full of shit, and the story was stupid. So it failed. But I can't say it's not funny to have Ubisoft, who's the purveyor of all these disasters lately,
say your brand sucks,
to be like, hey, just so you guys know, even though like our stock was at an all-time low, even though we had to split the company and take a bailout to avoid going bankrupt, blah, 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 all this stuff, your brand sucks, bro. Just so you know. That's pretty funny.
Agreed.